Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the live stream. I hope you're all very well this evening. I hope you can hear me well. So let's start at the top. We have Killer. Great to have you on, Killer. Thanks very much for moderating once again. We also have Conservator. Great to see you, Conservator. And Maxiteers. Let's see. We also have Claudius. Great to see you, Claudius. Matt Greek. Great to see you, Matt. Dano. Dano. I'm not sure how to pronounce it. I say Dano. John O'Sullivan, great to see you. Raven, great to see you. Tom, great to have you on. We have Joe Green, great to see you. Lenan, great to have you on. We also have Yoni, great to see you, Yoni. CJM, great to see you. Hope you're well. Valeria, thank you so much for that super chat. Very kind of you. Thank you so much for that. Do you think the UK will rejoin the customs union, says Valeria. So I'll just respond to Valeria's question, then I'll continue with the meet and greet. I think the UK will eventually rejoin the single market and the customs union. When? I have no idea. I think it could be a few years from now. It depends on the amount of pressure that the government are put under. If things continue to go badly because of Brexit, I think there will be growing pressure to rejoin the single market or the customs union or both of them. And I think politically, it's not really a problem for Brexiteers because it's no longer, the UK is no longer a member of the European Union. So you wouldn't be going back to becoming a member again. So I think it would be, I think it would be the right approach, but it depends on Boris Johnson, how long Boris Johnson's there. It could change if the next Prime Minister, even is a Tory, is a little bit more open, but that depends on many different things. I think it would be something that Keir Starmer definitely would be willing to do. Maybe not to rejoin as a member, but to join the single market and the customs union. But that would be after 2024. So let me just go back to who's here. We have, I have to say, so thanks for that, Valerio. Huge thank you to Ministerian. Thank you so much for that. Hello, Max. Sorry to be late. No problem. You're welcome. Thanks for the super chat. Thanks for coming. So I say CJM, great to see you, CJ. We have Anonymous, great to have you on, Anonymous. We have Child of the Universe, great to see you. Who else have we got? Soy Wilson, great to see you. Aoife, great to have you on. Well, we're up to 225. Pete, great to see you. I'll have to go very quickly. Katrina Bryce, great to see you. Hope you're well. Katrina Jones, great to see you. Catherine Jones, sorry. We also have Darren, great to see you, Darren. Akismad, great to have you on. Hope you're well. So many people. Brian, great to see you, Brian. We have Eddie. We have Joe. Adele. Jim, great to see you, Jim. Hope you're well. Derek, great to have you on. Nick. Josephine, Christopher. Jan, Ben, JR. So many people. Great to have all of you on. Tiny Demolition Lover, hope you're well. Great to see you once again. So, unfortunately, I can't say hello to everyone because we're over almost 250 people on the stream tonight. So, I hope everyone is very well tonight. So remember, if you want me to read out one of your comments, I'll definitely read it out. If it's a super chat, it'll appear up on my screen, so I'll read it out on the stream. If you cannot, don't worry, you can support the channel other ways by sharing videos on social media, liking, subscribing, commenting. That all helps. So I hope everyone's great and everyone's had a great weekend. So let's jump into the stream tonight. We have... Okay, contact tracing alone has little impact on curbing COVID spread, report finds. So we have here, we have another super chat. James, thank you so much for that super chat. Do you think the tunnel you were talking about in your other video is a way to keep the union together? I think, James, I think it's an attempt by Boris Johnson to keep the union together. Look at what we're doing. We're investing in the union, investing in a connection between Scotland and Northern Ireland. I think he's trying to, in a way, kill two birds with one stone here, or as some people say, feed two birds with one scone. Try to sell something to the Scots and sell something to the Northern Irish or the Unionists in Northern Ireland. But I don't think it's going to work because this is Boris Johnson. Artemis, great to see you on. I'm hurt, Max. If I was JOB, you'd say hello to me. Hey, hello, Artemis. Great to have you on. I'm sorry I didn't see your comment before. Scott's dog as well. Great to see you, Scott's dog. Night Raven, thank you so much for that super chat. Great to have you on. Hope you're well. I'm very sorry, Artemis. I'm sorry I didn't say hello before. Upfront payment to hamsters for preempting Max kidnap effort in memorandum of Richard Gere. Oh my god, okay. We're going back to Richard Gere again. But James, yes, I think it's an attempt to strengthen the union. It's not going to be built. I really don't see it being built, especially as Northern Ireland is moving further away from the UK, and Scotland is moving further away from Westminster. So I think it's an attempt to... I'm joking, Max. Good. Whew. I was a bit worried there. Bad Max, yes, bad Max. Slap on the wrist. I think it's an attempt to appear like Boris Johnson cares about the union when in reality he doesn't. Like, how many times has Boris Johnson made grandiose promises and they came to nothing? So Verti, great to see you on the stream. Hope you're well. Good evening, Mr. and Mrs. Max. Thank you very much. Mrs. Max just told me today that she's received a notification from the school she works at that she's going to get the vaccine. So that's good. I'm very happy for her because I won't get one. It'll be further way down the line. And I was speaking to my dad as well in Ireland just before I came on the stream. He's 81 this year. And he told me that his sister, who is 85, I think, in Ireland his plan is due to get the vaccine some of the next days, because in Ireland they're doing the over 85s first and then they're moving down the line. So Phil did a great video about the tunnel. I didn't see it. I haven't been on YouTube very much today. I wanted to see a lot of Graham's videos, but I didn't get a chance to see Graham's or Phil's videos today, unfortunately. I normally watch them in the mornings, but today, was it yesterday? Today and tomorrow is a sort of holiday here in Italy, so EU calling what they want their vaccines back. Yeah, I'm going to get to the vaccine issue in a moment, which is quite interesting. Mandy Mello says, had my first jab a couple of weeks ago. Great for you. Got to wait until the end of April for the second. That's okay. It's important that it is coming. That's the important thing. EU says thank you for the tunnel between our future EU members. Was it Mini? Umka, thank you so much for that super chat. Money laundering project. Make Union Tunnel Research Group and spend 100 million pounds on Great Tunnel feasibility study. A study to be done by Tory male mates. Yes, exactly. We need to do we need to carry out a survey on it, and we need to hire companies that donated to the Conservative Party, and then of course someone in that company will be sitting on the board who's also an MP, or we know how all these things work. Money spins, money keeps it moving. Verti, love you. I love your unicorn. Thank you so much for that super chat. Max, what's up? What's up? At the moment, COVID is up and Brexit is up, so we'll get to that in a moment. Still need to watch Phil's. I was born in Oban and liked the little geology we got in high school. Spread out the pounds. So thanks for those super chats. So let's jump into this. It says here, contact tracing alone will have little impact on curbing coal. So we see here, of course, Dido Harding, who received billions of pounds in order to run the test and trace system program, which isn't working very well. Tom, thank you so much for that super chat. Dead cat tunnel, no hamsters were harmed. Thanks very much for that. The sky is up, yes, for now. Anonymous. Thanks, Tom. Contact tracing alone has a marginal impact on COVID transmission, curbing the spread of the disease by just 2 to 5%, official estimates show. The figures come after Dido Harding, the head of the government's 22 billion. I always quoted it as something like 12 or 14 billion, when in reality it's 22 billion. So I was off by 12 billion on some cases, on some occasions. James, thank you so much for that super chat. Tories need to escape, need escape hatch in the tunnel. Really, you know, just to expand a bit on this tunnel. Well, I was actually thinking of having a competition or something for the best names for the tunnel. I heard some on Discord were saying Boris's black hole. That does not conjure up very nice images. It could be Boris's tunnel of love. Come on, guys, in the chat, give us some names for Boris's tunnel between Boris's borough. That was another one. Boris's tunnel between Scotland and Northern Ireland. Fill the Irish Sea with Boris's lies and build it. Sister, I'm a poet. That's lovely. Unicorn arsehole. Maybe they're digging a massive ditch for Boris to jump into. The tunnel should be called Project Fear 3.0, yes. Boris's money pit. Boris's elbow. The Chunder tunnel. Brexit tunnel of love, yes. Unicorn arsehole tunnel. The bunnel. Oh my god. Boris digs a ditch tunnel, yes. Bogdan, hope you're well. Great to see you on the stream once again. The great distraction. That's fantastic. The Tory echo chamber. Boris ditch. The cockwobble bypass. Tunnel dingy hole. Boris's road to nowhere, yes. That's good. Build back and collapse it. Illusion tunnel. Boris big money hole. The bunnel is great. Boris's bore. Boris's final tunnel. Alas, a tunnel. I love it. Build that hole. The Great Escape. Boris Johnson, the Great Pretender. Oh my god, okay. Pave way to Indy Scott. Hancock's love tunnel. Oh my god, no, I know that's gonna piss off some people. Minefield Express. Boris's bunghole. More time. Garden Bridge is not a tunnel. A bridge tunnel. The big mistake, yes. 6 feet under. A cockwobble bypass. Whack-a-mole hole. Very good. Okay. Bogdan, thank you so much for that super chat. Brexit can be an opportunity if managed properly. And Umka says, sovereignty tunnel of independence and happy fish. But there would be no fish in the tunnel unless Jacob Rees-Mogg includes some sort of little canal or little river within the tunnel. Thanks very much for that. Brexit can be an opportunity if managed properly. That's an interesting take. It'll be an opportunity for many people if you destroy the economy. It's easy for some people to sweep in and buy things up very cheaply. So Brexit will definitely be an opportunity for many people, for many businesses, venture capitalists or vulture capitalists, I should say. World-beating tunnel. Oh my God, Meghan and Harry. Not sure how they come into this, but okay, let's move on. So the figures come after Dido Harding, who heads the government's £22 billion test and trace program in England, suggested it was set to substantially reduce the spread of the coronavirus this spring. Newly published data behind that assertion shows that the vast majority of the impact of test and trace is down to people self-isolating. An army of contract tracers has been hired to track down close contacts to those who test positive for COVID and ask them to self-isolate. The contact tracers also remind people of the need to quarantine after a positive test. Earlier this month, Harding told MPs that thanks to test and trace, the R number for the virus was expected to fall by between 0.6 and 0.8 by the end of March. Sorry, at the end of March. An improvement on a drop of between 0.3 and 0.6 achieved in October. Greg Clark, the chair of the Science and Technology Committee, pressed Harding for the source of the claim. Published last week, an official report behind the claim said a combination of testing, tracing and self-isolating in an environment similar to last October's resulted in an R reduction of 18 to 33% when compared with the scenario involving only social distancing restrictions and no self-isolation. This corresponded with a reduction of 0.3 to 0.6. Contact tracing alone reduced the R number by just 2 to 5%. The modelling estimated of the report. The problem here is that Dido Harding has to justify the £22 billion she was given. So she has to say it's been a massive success. It seems to be the case that all of the things put together, including the lockdown and all, helped bring down the numbers, not just her program. Professor David Spiegelhalter, chair of the Winton Centre for Risk and Evidence Communication at the University of Cambridge, noted on Tuesday that the report stressed the R reduction estimate is in comparison to a scenario with only social distancing restrictions and no self-isolation. There we go. Bogdan, thank you so much for that super chat once again. COVID management is a joke. Get an invitation for a COVID jab and 5 minutes later get another to disregard the first unless I'm 65 or a care worker. This is what I love about the stream, is that I have people who come in, people who have first-hand knowledge of these issues, people who have experienced these things, or they're in contact with people who have experienced them directly. So this is a serious issue. Yes, you receive a notification, go and get your jab, and then 5 minutes later you're told, oh, you're not old and you're not in the right age category, which of course is information that the government put out as, look, we have reached out to this number of people, not saying that half of them are more probably erroneous, but they will just publish this is all about presenting numbers that are positive for the public. In the same way, I think what's happening with the first jab. Vaccinate everyone, as many people as possible, with one jab, so that you can pretend to the public that you have vaccinated everyone, when in reality you have only given half. And I'm going to come to that in a moment. Peter, thank you so much for that super chat. If he digs straight down, he will have a tunnel to Australia for trade. Let's give him a shovel. Get to work, Boris. Oh my god. More like Dodo hard. Guys, smash that like button. We're 352 viewers. That's great. Smash that like button. Okay, let's move on. So the test and trace, which cost 22 billion, is not as successful as we had thought. James, thank you so much for that super chat. Do you think COVID will slow down in summer again? I don't think so. I hope I'm wrong, but I have a fear that the vaccine will... The problem is that not enough people will be covered by the vaccine when it's been rolled out during the summer. Now, Boris Johnson and the government has said that they hope to have everyone vaccinated by August. I don't know if that's the case. But until we get to August, we need to have restrictions in place. And I don't see Boris Johnson and Matt Hancock imposing restrictions until August. I uploaded a video recently about how there are people who want, politicians who want the lockdowns to be ended as soon as possible. Glasgow Case, great to see you on the stream. Thanks for coming on. Hope you're well. Chris, sovereign Brexit currency. Well said. Thanks for the super chat. Brexit sovereignty currency. Okay, so easy fencing. Thank you so much for that super. Hey you too. Thanks for coming on. Thanks for that super chat. Hope you're well. So thousands of UK Amazon workers given false COVID test results. Now, before we get into this, fortunately, most of them were false negatives. False. So some of them were false positives, not false negative. False negative would be pretty bad. No, false positives. So they were told that they were positive. They self-isolated, but in reality, it was not. It was not the case. False negative, that would be quite serious. So it says here in the I'll just say receive these notifications a little bit after. Okay. Exclusive, so this is from The Guardian. It says officials say the employees tested negative but were sent notifications telling them to self-isolate. Thousands of Amazon workers received the wrong coronavirus test results after a mistake meant to they were given inaccurate information by Test and Trace. Remember? This lady from Test and Trace. The Guardian estimates that 3,853 staff members at the online retailer received an erroneous result. Officials said that they had tested negatively, but received notifications to say that they had tested positive and asked them to self-isolate. The Department of Health and Social Care said it had been resolved in a day, but those working for the world-beating service that tracked down those who may have been infected with the virus said that they were still dealing with the fallout. One Test and Trace worker said, the tests, as far as I can tell, were good, but the people were told about the results. Their results is wrong. Sorry, let me read that again. The tests, as far as I can tell, were good, but what people were told about the results was wrong. Sorry. The Test and Trace program has been criticised since its launch. The government's £22 billion programme came under increased strain during the height of the pandemic as it had to contact nearly triple the number of infected people. It's not clear how the errors occurred, but separately, some Test and Trace healthcare professionals have expressed increasing concerns about the use of outsourced, inexperienced call centre staff to carry out the role of clinically trained staff. There we go. Bogdan, thank you very much for that super chat. Their chance of their one vacation in 10 years gone. I don't understand that comment. The Italian job? The Italian job. So this is the problem. And it goes on to say they were employed on minimum wage by telesales businesses contracted by Serco, which had been drafted in to carry out detailed interviews with coronavirus patients. So what's happening here is Serco gets the contract, not NHS. Remember, Boris Johnson kept calling it NHS Test and Trace. It was not NHS Test and Trace. It was run by Serco. Serco employs people at minimum wage with basic training and gets them to carry out these interviews, detailed interviews with coronavirus patients, trying to understand, okay, what were the symptoms you had? What people did you come in contact with? What sort of contact did you have with those people? To get details. But if you're, and this is not a criticism of the staff, this is criticism of Serco. Serco receive a contract for hundreds of millions, billions maybe, and then what they do is, okay, we need to spend as little as possible to complete the work. We have to complete some work, but we have to spend as little as possible. So let's hire people at minimum wage. Now, if this had been done by the NHS, they would have used skilled staff, and those staff would have been paid the right amount of money, and they would have been vetted for their abilities. But instead, this is another case of handing public money over to private companies to do the job. Amazon said that all those who received the erroneous message from Test and Trace went home on a precautionary basis. It added that it's investigated and updated them shortly afterwards to confirm the message had been an error and they were not required to self-isolate. The Government Scientific Advisory Group for Emergency, SAGE, has said that 80% of an infected person's close contacts must be told to self-isolate within 48 to 72 hours for the national programme to be effective. So any delayed risks allowing coronavirus to spread. I think this is the real problem here. This phrase here, they were employed on minimum wage by telesales businesses contracted by Serco. It's all about taking public money, spending it, and pocketing as much as possible. Spending as little as possible and pocketing as much as possible. Minnie, thank you so much for that super chat. Max, dealing with the pandemic is not a game. And if it was, the UK lost it anyway, no matter what. Unfortunately, I think many of these people are not even treating it as a game, but as an opportunity to make some quick money. Matt Hancock's friends, Matt Hancock's donors, these people see this all as an opportunity. When Boris Johnson criticised, I think it was a Labour MP who said something really stupid, who had said that, as far as I know, she said something like, this is an opportunity to take the government to task, or it's a great opportunity to do something. I don't remember exactly. And he criticised the Labour Party for this. He criticised Keir Starmer for this. When in reality, companies like Serco are really taking advantage of this situation. And of course, Tory MPs who receive donations from these companies, or Tory MPs who sit on boards of these companies, are taking advantage of the situation as well. So one is perhaps taking advantage of the situation rhetorically, while someone within the government is taking advantage of the situation monetarily. The tunnel of sovereignty. Unfortunately, so Max, these people want to profit at the expense of others. Yes, Joe, I agree 100%. Tory's dream word, deregulation, means no control. Free market means our friends. What it's all about is, when they say cutting red tape, it's about cutting protections for workers. When they talk about reducing, bureaucracy, it's about reducing environmental standards and protections that are in place for the public. James, thank you so much for that super chat. Should we do symptoms checks in shops? Well, for example, when here in Italy, in schools, and actually in large supermarkets, you have to have your temperature checked when you go in. Now, a temperature check will only check to see if you are sick at the moment. You can be asymptomatic. So apart from that, I don't know what sort of checks we can do. I remember last year there was talk of having, a 2-minute test or something like that. But I don't think supermarkets and shops would be willing to spend that amount of money, because it would be extremely expensive. You see your message, Joanna? Okay, I'll ask a question. I'll ask a question to him then. What does he think of the EU will demand for us to rejoin? Okay, I don't always look at the chat, but I try and read it as much as possible. So what will the no, what was the question again? I have lost it. Sorry. What does he think the EU will demand for us to rejoin? It could be a requirement for the UK to rejoin, in order to join the euro. I don't know if that's the case. I think the UK rejoining as a member is a long way off. I think the first step would be to join the single market or the customs union. That would be much easier. To become a member, the UK would be at the back of the queue. There would be no fast tracking. I don't see it. Scotland is a different situation. See, there's a fear in the EU, I think, of, okay, we let the UK back in. Let's say, for example, we let the UK back in. And then, with a government that's EU friendly. And then after the next election, they're kicked out and they're replaced with new Brexiteers once again. Hard man, what's his name? Steve Baker becomes Prime Minister. Then we're going to have, this aggressive government towards the EU once again. So why would we bother with all of that? We've gone through it already. We would prefer to have governments that are EU friendly. Now, I think at the moment, the EU are probably considering maybe we need to slow down the expansion. We need to really vet countries that are coming in, because, and this is not a criticism of Hungary or Poland, but the governments in Hungary and Poland are not exactly enthusiastic when it comes to the European Union, and some people within the European Union would prefer not to have those two countries in the bloc. I don't fully agree with that, but anyway, let's move on. I try to read as many of your comments as possible, but if you hit me with a super chat, I definitely will read your comment. Thanks for those super chats so far. What are the pros and cons of COVID vaccine passports? I think this is an interesting article about, so the vaccine minister, Nadhim Zawari, was talking on, I think it was Andrew Marr or on LBC, I don't remember, but he was talking about vaccine passports. So so I'd like to go through some of the arguments for and against these type of Steve Baker as Prime Minister. Yes. I like Anonymouse's 4 stages of reaction. So what the confusion, was it anger, confusion? No, I think the second last is confusion, and then the last one is just disgust. Change their electoral system by ending first past the post. Yes, I agree 100%, Anthony. But I think that's going to disappear before. Look, I think what the Labour Party need to do, I know I'm going off topic here, but I know the Labour Party need to sit down with the Liberal Democrats and the Greens and the SNP perhaps, and work out some sort of government of national unity, work out some sort of electoral pact where members of the Labour Party will stand aside if they're in a constituency where they haven't a hope of winning, and support the other unity candidate, be it the Liberal Democrat or the SNP or the Green Party. It has to be, this is what we're going to do to stop the Tories. And then when you're in power, then immediately, the very minute you're in the door, implement proportional representation model for voting system. Completely throw away the PR system, because the PR system, the first past the post system benefits the Tories. It used to benefit the Labour Party as well, but now it doesn't. It benefits the Tories. It allows the Tories to not increase their vote, but to increase their number of seats. How is that democratic? Brian, thank you so much for that super chat. All this doom and gloom, it's carnival time. Go to Venice in your mankini. No one will know it's you with the mask on. It's a bit cold, Brian. It's minus, what was it? -1 this morning. So I think I would be arrested if I was wandering around in a mankini in 1 degree, but maybe not. It could be a special, I may do a special event, a mankini live stream. No, I promise I will not. I've said before, the mankini is a crime against humanity. Thank you very much, Brian. But I'll keep it on the back burner. Bogdan, again, thank you so much for the super chat. Congratulations, Max. First person ever I'm supporting on Patreon. Yay! Best 20 quid ever spent. Keep up the great work. Thank you so much. You're very kind. Yesterday, the Patreon had hit 250 patrons. That's amazing. I'm really happy with that. So I want to do something special for my patrons because we've hit 250. It's a massive milestone. I never thought it would actually arrive at that. Red Star, as a poll, I would say your right stupidity is overwhelming everywhere. And once again, I mean, no, my criticism of Poland and Hungary are of the governments, of course, the same way the criticism of Britain is not the British people, it's Boris Johnson and his bozo bunch. So what are the arguments for a vaccine passport? So it says here, they could serve as a powerful motivation for people to get vaccinated. That's a good point. However, David Archard, the chair of the Nuffield Council on Bioethics, argues that they are not necessarily a proportionate way to achieve vaccine compliance, which can be better secured by providing greater and more accurate information to people. I actually tend to disagree with David because the public are not very into information. We've seen it with Brexit. You know, you could provide as much information about the EU, about the positives of staying within the European Union in the run-up to 2016, but Boris Johnson and Nigel Farage are more showman-like, so they were able to convince people. So it's not always giving people information is the best solution, unfortunately. So I would disagree with that. But I do think it could be a powerful motivation to get people vaccinated. Opportunities by giving a certificate. Some individuals who have been deprived of access to certain work opportunities by the pandemic could benefit. Yeah, I think that's a great... If you say, look, I have this certificate says I'm vaccinated, people would be allowed to return to work that they wouldn't been able to do before. And that's important, says Archer. After all, what we've been dealt with for the last year is considerable restrictions on the freedoms of the population. And here's one way in which individuals might now be able to get back to those freedoms, basic freedoms that are generally valuable to them. Yes. Sorry, I'm misreading this. So basic, yes, of course. If people have the passport to be able to get back to some sort of freedoms that, and you know, can you imagine? You may be able to travel. You know, here in Italy we have our regions are blocked. So if you had the passport, you could travel to a different region of the country. The same in if you're in the UK, maybe you could travel to Ireland or you could travel to France. So I think there are huge benefits there. The passports could also offer value in terms of international travel. Being vaccinated means that you'll be unlikely to suffer from severe COVID-19 disease that might require hospitalization abroad. Paul Hunter, a professor of medicine at the University of East Anglia, says it is a country's hospitals that are grappling with high levels of COVID. They don't want people coming out on holiday from Britain and then going down with COVID and adding to the burden of the healthcare system. Yes, if you are vaccinated, you are unlikely to get sick with COVID while you're there, either because or you brought it to the country or because you picked it up in the first week of the holiday. So what are the arguments against having a vaccination passport? So while the vaccines being deployed, while the vaccines being deployed have shown to have impressive efficacy in reducing the risk of hospitalization and death from symptomatic COVID-19, at this point there is no concrete evidence that they can thwart transmission. So there's a danger of simply assuming because people have been vaccinated that they don't spread COVID-19, and that would not be a good scientific basis for the policy of passports. Which makes a valid point. We mustn't assume that because you're vaccinated that you don't spread it. You don't get sick. I don't know if there's any evidence or any information about how people who have received the vaccine, if they're still contagious. Because I would assume that because it can remain on surfaces, you can touch stuff and you can spread it around. It's not that if you touch stuff that you don't spread it. You're protected, but it doesn't mean that you would not protect others. Most countries are in the early stages of vaccine rollout. That's why it's important that's why it's very important that we continue to maintain social distancing, hand washing, wearing masks, even after we've had the vaccination, because there may still many people in the community who will not be protected. You're incorrect. Look at the recent AstraZeneca summary. I'll check that. I assume Kevin's talking to me. Variants, most countries in the early stages of vaccine rollout and given concerns about the impact of existing variants, in particular the one discovered in South Africa, on the ability of vaccines to offer protection, it would be premature to introduce the passport system, says Arcard. I think we're about halfway through the first half, and we don't want to start introducing red and yellow cards quite yet. We want to head on into the second half and see if we can see how it's working. And then some of the other issues, discrimination. Such passports would be used to give people who are vaccinated and presumed to have immunity the ability to do things that others cannot. I think this would be a concern, that some people would just buy the vaccine and then buy their freedom. And that's, richer people would be able to do that. Given that the vaccine rollout is based on a priority system, some people would be vaccinated before others. Others could choose not to get vaccinated despite being offered the vaccine, may also lose out on opportunities. There's a danger of stigmatizing individuals who lack certification, and Arcard suggests that you may also penalize people who are already at a disadvantage because of certain inequalities. Fraud. The passports could be encouraging people who have not been vaccinated yet to have chosen not to be vaccinated to get the certification on the black market. So if passports are adopted, he says it has to be done in a way that is not subject to fraud. Yes, so there could be, it'd be very difficult. We'd need a new type of system perhaps. And privacy. Typically health information such as vaccine records is stored by the NHS. These passports could mean that data is shared with outside companies. This would be a great opportunity for Dominic Cummins' friends in, Cambridge Analytica. It could be used in ways that are unfair, that are stigmatizing, and that are prejudicial to the interests of individuals. Exactly how it would be put into practical effect could also raise reasonable ethical concerns that would need to be addressed, of course. James, thank you so much for that super chat. You can't tell how the body will react if you get the vaccine in your home country and go to a new country and expose yourself to a new version of COVID. That's a very interesting point, yes. So we can see how the vaccine is working within the community, but introduce new variables. We don't know how it's going to react to that. Which was extremely concerning why Boris Johnson was talking about we need to keep the airports open so we can allow more people in. We don't want to close off the country entirely. That didn't make any sense to me. Now, some people are not very happy about the lockdowns and about the restrictions. And I want to show you Mr. Witherspoon. So Witherspoon's boss calls for pubs to reopen. This is the guy who, I don't know if he threatened or he actually did it, where he threatened to fire his staff if they went on furlough, if they demanded furlough at the beginning of the pandemic. If, for people who don't know him, you'll see him in a moment and you go, oh yes, that guy. Let's see what he had to say about pubs reopening.
Tim Martin, the chair of the JD Wetherspoons, says that pubs should reopen at the same time as non-essential retail stores because the industry is on its knees and must restart soon to save jobs. And he joins me now. Good to see you this morning, Tim. A pretty impassioned plea from you to the government. You won't be the only sector making your case. On what basis do you argue yours?
Well, really on the fact that if you take our pub company, for example, we've had 50 million visits, customer visits since the 4th of July last year, and we've had no outbreak among customers. It's counterintuitive, but if you operate social distancing policies, which have been...
How does he know that? How does he know that he didn't have any outbreaks among customers? Did he identify all of the customers? Did he check after whether they got infected or not? I think he's talking out of his arse here.
Agreed with the health authorities before last summer, and you have the proper hygiene regulations in place, then...
I was just looking at Rial's comment. The man looks like Ban and Shag the whoopee cushion.
You avoid transfer of the virus in pubs. A lot of people don't believe that, but I think all the stats show that it's private houses, care homes, factories and so on have a much worse experience than pubs. So so we think we can make them COVID secure.
Tim, you're saying most people don't believe that, but crucially, the people who do believe it is the government and its scientific advisors.
Yeah, but you don't need to start listening to scientific advisors. You need to listen to the guy who runs a pub. He's literally the embodiment of the guy down the pub who claims to know everything and knows more about, you know, anything than any scientist or any expert.
Well, the government has shut pubs 3 times completely and instigated a raft of unscientific measures like curfews. You can only have a pint with a substantial meal. So we're worried that it's going from pillar.
But these were to help you. He's complaining about measures that were brought in to help him. Like, I think the pubs should have been closed completely. You know, allowing people to have a substantial meal. You can go into a pub if you're having a substantial meal. You know, there was, in a way, he's right, but he's not right. He's right for the wrong reasons. He wants just look. He's one of these people who say, oh, look, the lockdown failed. That means we shouldn't have a lockdown. No, the lockdown didn't work very well because it wasn't a proper lockdown. It wasn't enforced enough. It wasn't strict enough. But these people will say, oh, see, it didn't work. Cancel it. He's the type of person who doesn't want you to do anything. Any type of restriction. Zero. because he doesn't care. It's about just get as many people in as possible so I can make as much money in as short amount of time as possible.
At a post, and they've said, for example, that, or it's been indicated that you can open up in gardens in April, but that'll make the whole industry unprofitable. There might be the odd pub that makes a buck. So we're worried about the finances, the million or so jobs that have been lost in pubs and similar types of businesses, and the amount of money we contribute to the economy. It all has to be taken into the mix.
When you were raising funds recently from shareholders, you talked about a best-case scenario of reopening at the end of March and with sales at 50% of normal level. Is that...
Is he insane? At the end of March, opening pubs at the end of March at 50%?
Still your hope?
Yes, the end of March would be the same as the first lockdown, which was about 3 months. And the difference this time is that vast swathes of the country, including myself, by this afternoon, will have been vaccinated. So this time it's about vaccination as well. So we...
This guy has been vaccinated. Look, I understand the vaccination is by age group. Okay, it starts by age group. This guy has been vaccinated. So think about it for a moment. This guy has been vaccinated and he wants his business to open where his staff will have to work in it, but his staff have not been vaccinated. Think about that for a moment. He's sitting in his office, in his private villa, wherever it is, and he's been vaccinated, but he wants his staff to go back into work and they haven't been vaccinated. And in his mind, look, everything is okay. We can get back to work. Like, I'm okay. I feel fine. Let's get back to work. The complete disconnect from these business owners. Spill bollocks from RP accent. You're smart. He's so disconnected from his workers, disconnected from his customers, disconnected from reality. He gets his vaccine, everything else is fine. Thanks very much, Umka.
I don't think the lockdown should be longer. And there was no rise in cases once pubs reopened last summer. That happened quite a bit later.
You talk about vaccinations there. Will you insist on staff or indeed customers having been vaccinated before they can come in?
Well, we actually haven't crossed that bridge. I think it would be...
probably no.
Be an unusual situation, been trading for over 40 years, and I know some people have been trading for longer, and we haven't had a sort of passport control at the door of the pub saying that people have to have a vaccination. So I'm suspicious about that idea myself. But we'll just have to see how things pan out in the country. It partly depends on what the virus itself does, of course.
No mention of his staff. So he doesn't give a crap about his staff. It must be horrible working for somebody who doesn't give a... I understand that generally in large companies and corporations, you're treated as a number. But this guy doesn't even treat you like a number. He's more concerned about, well, I don't want to have checks on customers coming in. But the question was also about your staff. Surely he should be concerned about his staff, and he should say, look, we'll open when our staff have been vaccinated. But he's not going to do that because some of the staff are probably very young people. Is this the idiot with no deal? We'll see us prosper. Yes, this is one of them. Bogdan, there were so many. But yes, he is a Brexiteer, or was a Brexiteer. He was promoting Brexit. He was saying everything is going to be great. He appeared in his pub with Boris Johnson holding a pint, and he also appeared with Nigel Farage. So, Alexis, thank you so much for that super chat. I could eat a bowl of alphabet soup and defecate more sense than the Wetherspoon guy. Well said. That's very bad. He just well said. Calm down. He doesn't care about his staff. He doesn't care so much about his customers, but he cares more about his customers than his staff. But first of all, he thinks about himself.
Talking about things that you may post in your pub, you courted criticism recently by having anti-lockdown posters displayed in some of your pubs. They have now been removed, but I'm just wondering if you regret that.
No, I think there's a strong case which has been made by many, many people that the type of hard lockdown that you've had...
Oh my God. So his staff have to expose themselves not just to customers, but also to COVIDiots. And you imagine you're sitting in a pub, right? You're standing in a pub, actually. You're not allowed to sit down. You're standing in a pub, filling up beers, filling pints of beer, and you have to face a poster that management put up. It's not the customers that put it up. It's not the staff that put it up. Because in order to put up the poster, you'd have to have the permission of the management. And the management put up a poster saying probably something like there is no pandemic or something like that. Or how dare they force us to go into a lockdown. The lockdown is to protect the staff. And they have to look across their workplace and see these ridiculous posters that are acting against their interest. And they're put up there by a guy who's sitting in an office hundreds of miles away, completely protected. It's a bit like, these, perhaps, these posters during the First World War where the general is sitting in his nice, comfortable office, tens or 30, 40, 50 miles behind the line. And he's telling, it's good old Tommy, go forward, climb over the top and do your duty. It's like, yeah, but I'm going to be the one who dies, not you. We're all in it together. Beer Wizard, thank you so much for that super chat. Max, get yourself a beer, but not from this goon. I promise. I think I would actually, if I ever get the chance to visit the UK again, I will go to a Wetherspoons and I will do a live stream at the Wetherspoons criticising Brexit and see how long it lasts before I'm kicked out. He knows opening pubs means more transportation. Thanks for that, James. Yes. He just wants to reopen. He doesn't care. These people... It's like these lunatics that are in the Conservative Party in the backbench putting pressure on Boris Johnson. Open up, open up. We need to open. Yeah, but there's a pandemic. It doesn't matter. Just open. Look, last month I made, £3 million. This month I only made 2 million. How the hell am I supposed to survive?
That in the UK doesn't work. You've got to remember we've had 3 lockdowns and we've got the highest...
Does he always sound like this? He sounds like he's on drugs or something. I don't mean like illicit drugs. I just maybe he's on some sort of strong medication. He sounds really sleepy. I'm not very familiar with the guy, but he doesn't sound very well.
Fatality rate per million people in the entire world. Sweden, I've just updated the numbers this morning, has got half the fatalities per million people of the UK. And it hasn't had a hard lockdown. But I think people get lost in
Tim, can we come back to Sweden for a moment, please? Because the Swedish fatality rate, as is well known, does far eclipse its Nordic neighbours. And
No. The right wing like to use Sweden as this success story, and now it's become a disaster. It was never actually a success story, but... Why is it always Sweden? Because Sweden didn't have a lockdown. But Sweden is not the same as the UK. Nurse, Bannon's idiot brother has got out of the straitjacket again. I thought Bannon was the idiot. Thanks very much, Glasgow Kiss. He's drunk. Generally, when people are drunk, they're a bit more jolly. The lunatics are running the asylum. Scary stuff. Bugden, yes. Thanks for that super chat. Yeah, I agree.
And they are now trying to push through a bill in Parliament to be able to allow lockdowns, of which you are
I just don't think that's an accurate representation. I've seen that written. It's not true. They're not considering the type of lockdown there is in the UK.
So now you're a journalist, a drunken journalist.
They call it a soft lockdown. So they have taken certain measures, and they have increased the intensity of some measures in some areas, as you'd expect. So I think we've become...
As you'd expect. You guys were promoting Sweden, then it turned out to be an absolute disaster. And now you're like backpedaling, like no one's mentioning Sweden anymore. And now when Sweden is brought up, it's, oh, well, it's not, you know, it's, of course they're imposing a lockdown. That's normal. We all expected them to impose a lockdown at some stage. He sounds stoned. Stoned or drunk, I don't know which it is. I won't expose you to too much more, I promise.
Too obsessed between lockdowners and anti-lockdowns. It's about what practical measures do you take. Do you, for example, as we've done in the UK, close golf clubs? Is that going to stop a single case? It's very expensive for the country because you have to pay furlough payments and so on, and you lose the tax revenue you'd otherwise get.
Okay, he's just rambling like like an incoherent grandfather. Okay, so let's move on. Boris Johnson says he wants this lockdown to be the last one. Those people are the reason why we can't enjoy pubs already, by fueling COVIDiocy and Brexitism. Yes, I agree, Ministerian. These people, like him before, if they were against any type of lockdown at the beginning, because they were able to put pressure on the government to not impose a real lockdown, that meant that the cases started to rise again, and then it was necessary to have another lockdown. Those people put pressure on the government again not to impose a strict lockdown. That meant that there wasn't a strict lockdown. There were tiered systems that didn't work. And then those people who didn't want to do anything complained that something didn't work as the government had said it should work. Like, it's like, imagine you're trying to put out a fire. I get to these fire analogies all the time. Imagine you're trying to put out a fire and somebody is standing on the hose and then they're complaining, well, see, look, the fire isn't going out. Yes, because you're standing on the hose. My God, okay, anyway.
Last year, Boris Johnson might have responded to a moment like passing the 15 million target with cheering language about easing the lockdown soon. This year, a new approach. His team has agreed it must avoid over-promising. The Prime Minister signalled a...
This is unrelated to the COVID. This is unrelated to all of this. But is there ever a moment when Boris Johnson is serious? Like, is Boris Johnson the type of person who's, you know, the clown outside home, and then when he returns home, he becomes like a serious gentleman or something? It's a serious question I have. When is Boris Johnson actually a serious person? Like, I imagine when, you know, somebody's died and he's like laughing and joking about it, or it's all ruffle the hair and, you know, act the fool. Is there a time when Boris Johnson is actually a serious individual?
Slower lifting of control.
Good night, Matt Greek. Thanks for coming on the stream. Have a great week. I'll see you soon. Hope to see you on Friday. Have a great one.
Than might have been hoped for. In the hope, he said, there would be no more national lockdowns after this, the third one.
We want this lockdown to be the last, and we want progress to be cautious, but also irreversible.
He was asked if he could give a cast-iron guarantee there would be no more national lockdowns.
But to say I can give an absolute cast-iron guarantee that we won't face further difficulties and, have to think harder and deeper about some problems, no, Alex, at this stage, I can't.
I think it's quite likely that this will be the last lockdown that we have because, to a large extent, the purposes of the lockdown were to control the pressure on the NHS.
What would you say the odds are that we have another lockdown, though, next winter?
I would guess it's probably less than about 1 in 4. less than a 4-to-1 odds. But, that is a very wild guess, really.
The Prime Minister said he didn't think vaccine passports would be part of everyday life in the UK, but he thought taking a lateral flow test might be a requirement before you can go to the theatre or other mass indoor events.
Lateral flow testing or rapid testing for those bits where, it is that have been the toughest nuts to crack, as it were, such as nightclubs or theatres, those parts of the economy we couldn't get open last year.
The cautious approach is alarming some Tory MPs. 60 of them have signed a letter calling on Boris Johnson to lift all COVID restrictions by the end of April.
So, see, these crazy people, and they are building. That's the problem. They are increasing. Anonymous, thank you so much for that super chat. Crazy to think a year since Boris went on holiday and asked not to be contacted weeks after a global emergency, health emergency announced. Yes, he was on holiday. And then how many Cobra meetings did he miss? That guy shot is on the telly again. How many meetings? I think it was the first 4 meetings or first 3 meetings. Cobra meetings, which are emergency meetings, he missed them. He didn't bother to go to them. He didn't bother to turn up.
The Prime Minister might feel he lent into your view of the world, you and your gang's view of the world, last autumn, and a lot of good it did him with the winter surge in infections.
Well, the Prime Minister might be thinking that, but the wheels fell off the then projections of deaths, and indeed we were not given access to the underlying data regarding the hospital projections.
But we don't know whether they were wrong at all, do we? If there hadn't been lockdown controls, death rates would have been even vaster than they were this winter.
I read a paper last night which seems to show that the most restrictive non-pharmaceutical interventions, like closing businesses, actually don't show an appreciable benefit over some of the less restrictive ones, like hands, face, space, and stop.
See, this guy, this guy is dangerous. This guy should not be given a platform. And notice he has his Union Jack behind him on his left. Shouldn't that be hanging on the wall? You don't throw the flag on the friggin' floor, okay, Steve, hardman Steve Baker. These people are dangerous because what they're doing is they are an extreme fringe, but like Brexit, they have the Prime Minister's ear, and they're continually nibbling away at Boris Johnson's resolve. And Boris Johnson doesn't have a lot of resolve. That's the problem. And on the one side, you have lunatics who just want to end any type of restrictions. Now, in public, they will say, yes, we understand the need for certain restrictions and we want to work with the Prime Minister and all of this crap. But in private, these people don't want any type of restrictions at all. And they want to replace Boris Johnson with one of their own. Steve Baker, see, these people are career politicians as well. They see, look, if I'm in this group, they are Jimmy Savile level hairstyle in 2021. Boris will fix it. Oh God. But these people just want power. They understand that there's this issue that they can take advantage of. I don't know what their end game is when it comes to the pandemic. If there's a vaccine rolled out, their power will pretty much dissipate because restrictions will eventually be loosened. But I think they're maybe in for the short game. They want to take advantage of the situation now, to build up a name for themselves, to appear in reports, to appear on TV. James, thank you so much for that super chat. Always saying what we should have been done. Always saying what should have been done. Do it. Yes. It's always about these guys were never really interested in defeating the pandemic. They'll take, oh look, the lockdown didn't work. Say the lockdown didn't work perfectly. Look, the lockdown didn't work. We shouldn't have had a lockdown. This is about getting people back into their workplaces. He says things like, yes, There's no evidence to support if people go into the office that they're going to spread the pandemic. It's because they don't care about workers. They don't care about business. It's about making a profit. Certain industries are suffering. Certain businesses are suffering financially, and they care more about that. They never care about their workers. Remember that.
Mass gatherings.
My sister's a carer, and she said, Dave, just get it done. So you've got to for the population.
I don't think anybody should be up thinking too far ahead about anything. We need this, nip it in the bud. The country can't afford to go through another lockdown.
A West London vaccination centre today. The government's chief medical officer said there wasn't yet enough data from those who've been vaccinated to be sure how much protection the jabs are giving. That information will build towards the end of the week. It'll feed into an end-of-lockdown plan that's expected to be more cautious than the one the government published before last summer.
It should be based on the day-by-day data. So don't give, and this is, I've been critical of Boris Johnson in the past, where he said, yeah, we're going to end this lockdown or we're going to end this tier on this date. Don't give a date. You could give a target, say when we get to this number of deaths, when we get to this number of new infections, when we get to this number of hospitalizations, when we get to this number of vaccinations completed, then we'll begin to ease the lockdown. But not saying by the end of March or by the end of April or beginning of or Easter or something like that. Because then you fall into the trap of setting a target that is not based on science or based on reality. It's a political objective. And it's an attempt to keep certain groups of people happy.
Well, we're in this strange limbo as the government waits for the data, but what you could see Boris Johnson doing there was rolling the pitch ahead of his announcement on the way out of lockdown. And he's doing what there were a couple of councils of war within government end of last year, beginning of this year, where they sat around and said, this over-promising lot that you keep doing, Prime Minister, it really isn't helping us. And you can see that the Prime Minister is trying to play down expectations of this release from lockdown. It won't be some great liberation. The thing we really learnt, the concrete thing that we learnt today, though, because they're in this limbo and they're not telling us much, is this idea of using rapid flow tests, the quickie tests, near venues where concerts might be taking place, the theatre, things that the government just hasn't found a way to open since last March. It sounds as though not just that they're looking seriously at having lots of these testing sites maybe close to a venue like that so you can take your test on the way in, but the truth is they're not quite sure how they could reopen those venues without something like that.
Gary, thanks very much.
And then you need staff to work at these venues. When do the venues open? And then will the venues open if there isn't the staff of it? You know, and who's going to run the type of testing system to be connected to these venues? I think it's once again throwing ideas out to see how the public respond to, not actually having a plan in place. Okay, guys, we're over halfway through the stream, so I want to just take a small break. Of course, this is our comedy moment, so let's enjoy this. And we'll be back with some serious in a moment.
Your mask, your compliance, I hate it when you try and not die. Your facts, your science, I hate it when you try and survive. Your sage, your closures, I hate it when you stay alive. Your plague of locusts, I hate it when you try and not die. I got a fetish for killing you with denial. On the radio every day, so homicidal. Enjoy your lockdown, I'll take a yacht cruise while patiently waiting to take a seat at British Fox News. Between me and you, you're in ICU and I'm flying abroad in my private G2. Ain't just trying to kill you, I'll kill your whole family too. Kill over from listening to Julia Hartley Brewer. Bring you the freshest misinformation. Couldn't give a shit, just keep calling the station. Don't matter if I killed her for third of my listeners by telling them to all get together for Christmas. I'm getting new gigs while you're down with the sickness, cause Murdoch and Andrew Neil think I'm the business. Me and Ferrari, king and queen of the gammon. Boris Johnson's sisters are liberal by comparison. Your mask, your compliance, I hate it when you try and not die. Your facts, your science, I hate it when you try and survive. Your sage, your closures, I hate it when you stay alive. Your plague of locusts, I hate it when you try and not die.
Very good. Okay. Anonymous, thank you so much for that super chat. I'm 90% Boris mentioned lateral flow tests in a panic response to a question. People behind closed doors going, what the F has he said this time? Oh, yes. Look, I don't know what Boris is on half the time. The Ian Duncan Smiths, I love them. So, I just wanted to read this. This was an interesting article, from, an opinion piece in The Guardian. It says here, Brexit Britain's victory over the EU on COVID vaccination is not what it seems. So it says here, the COVID vaccination campaign is a better advertisement for Brexit than even Brexiteers could have imagined. Hasn't the newly liberated Britain, freed from the shackles of EU membership, shown what it's capable of? The evidence couldn't be clearer. 19% of the UK's population has already received a first vaccine, compared with barely 1.5% of the EU's. Malta, the EU country out in front, is still only 8%. Surely a case of game, set and match, as John Major so proudly declared back in December 1991, having won the UK's opt-out of the Maastricht Treaty. Sorry, but the reality is a bit more complex and not quite as stunning, not quite as such a stunning UK victory. True, Britain's got a month head start on EU by approving the Pfizer-BioNTech vaccine at the start of December, and then AstraZeneca's at the end of that month. It had to accept the terms offered by the pharmaceutical companies, however, both in paying a higher price per dose and by waiving their civil liability in the case of adverse effects. But there's a very big but. The UK's success is really an illusion because of the fully effective. Because to be fully effective, the vaccines require 2 doses, and only 0.8% of the UK population has received both shots, less than that of France's 0.92%, and a long way behind Denmark, which has 2.87%. So I just want to click on this, and I'll show you the fully vaccinated per country. You should be able to see it on your screen, yes, if it's not too small. So at the top we have Gibraltar, which is at 29% fully vaccinated. Of course, they only have some like 25,000 people who have received the vaccine, so it's a very small number. Israel comes next, Seychelles, Cayman Islands, United States, Isle of Man, Malta, Denmark. So Denmark has administered 404,000, which is 2.29% of the population, who have received both jabs, not just one. Then we have United Arab Emirates, Bermuda, Serbia, Romania, Slovenia, Spain, Italy here at 2.13%, Lithuania, Portugal, Ireland, Germany, Poland, Estonia, Belgium, Austria, Iceland, Greece, Czech Republic, European Union, Hungary, Norway, and then we have the United Kingdom down here. So countries like, for example, France, the UK has 0.81%, while France has 0.95%. When we compare the two countries, now that means that of the people who have received the dose, we're still talking about 15 million people who have received the first half, but when it works out, it's not as good a picture as we had originally imagined. Boris is the drug lord of the Tories. Yes. So I think it's important to understand, and Brexiteers probably would not like to look at this type of information. This is from John Hopkins University. I've said at the beginning, this is not about one country winning and another country losing, or one nation winning and a bloc losing, or whatever. We're in this fight together. I think something which is much more important than, which country is coming first or which countries are coming last, because we need to look out for developing nations, countries who have very dilapidated, backward infrastructure, and how do we get the vaccine to those communities, those remote parts of the world. We need to get those people vaccinated as well, because if there's one of us not vaccinated, it means we're all in trouble. So I think it's very important that we instead of focusing on who's quote unquote winning, we should look at who's losing. Anyway, let's move on. So I just wanted to talk a little bit about that. So let's move on to Brexit, of course. I'll just get rid of Mr. Witherspoon. I call him Mr. Witherspoon. So in regards to Brexit, I want to read this story first. Whoops. Here we go. So EU clearinghouse seeks to calm Brexit tensions over Northern Ireland. So the EU is seeking to de-escalate the Brexit tensions in Northern Ireland with the establishment of a new clearinghouse committee to work out solutions to issues caused by the new trade barriers, including controls on supermarket and chilled meat supplies. The European Commission Vice President Maros Sefcovic said the introduction of the Northern Ireland Protocol had been administratively extremely challenging, but the EU was doing as much as possible to calm down and stabilise the backlash over checks and controls on goods entering the region from Great Britain. Now, if you're not familiar with what's happening, of course, is that because Northern Ireland is part of the single market and the customs union in regard to goods, it means that certain goods crossing from Great Britain into Northern Ireland have to be checked. Now, in order to check them, you have to check the entire consignment, because certain goods, there is a risk that they would be sold on into the EU, to the rest of the EU, like, for example, into Ireland. And those goods need to be checked in order to make sure that they're not sold on. This is there's a grace period, and in order to do this, there are checks carried out at Northern Ireland ports. So where goods were coming in from Scotland or other parts of the UK, from other parts of Great Britain, it means that they have to be checked somewhere, and they're checked in Northern Ireland in the ports. What happened recently was loyalist paramilitaries, in my opinion, egged on by the likes of the DUP, went around writing graffiti saying we're threatening the people who work in those ports. Masked individuals were not with COVID masks, but with balaclavas, were seen entering the car park area of these port areas, taking notes of the registrations of cars of workers who work at these ports, and there has been accusations of intimidation. So the European Union said, look, we can't allow workers to continue within this environment. So the checks were cancelled. So goods are flowing into Northern Ireland without any checks being put in place. Now, this is down to the DUP, in my opinion, and loyalist paramilitaries working hand in hand, because the DUP have been complaining about all of this since the beginning. The DUP voted for this. The DUP were, and I've talked about this on the channel before, the DUP were promoting Brexit from day one, because they believed that Brexit would impose a hard border on the island of Ireland, that the Good Friday Agreement, which they completely disagreed with, would be torn up because Brexit would force a hard border on the island of Ireland. The Irish would complain, the EU would complain, the Americans would complain, but at the end of the day, a hard border would be put on the island of Ireland. That would mean that Northern Ireland would be copper fastened in a sense to Great Britain, and the Unionist community would no longer have to fear a Northern Ireland, a united Ireland, I should say. So that was their hope. And in order to arrive at that goal, they put all their money together and they put it in a big bag and they handed it over to the Conservative Party. And they put all their trust into that bag as well, and all their good their hopes and dreams, and they handed it over to Theresa May. And then Theresa May handed that bag over to Boris Johnson. And now they're complaining that they've been sold down the river. And they want the EU to fix this problem. They want the Irish government to fix this problem. They want Boris Johnson in some way to fix this problem. But this is part of the reality of Brexit. You know, the EU have reached out to the Irish government. They reached out to the British government. They reached out to the Northern Ireland Assembly, and they said, look, let's work together, try and fix this. If I was Mr. Šefčovič, I would just say, go fuck yourself. I'm sorry for that language, but you created this problem. Why should we fix it? You voted for it. I would go out on TV and I would say, the DUP voted for this. They wanted this. Loyalist parliamentaries, if you have a problem, you need to go and see Eileen Foster and Ian Paisley Jr. So go and speak to those people, because they're the people who sold you this. We told you from the beginning there would be problems. Those people said that we were lying. And now that's the reality. Ask them to fix the problem, not us. This is really frustrating, because you have these friggin' idiots like the DUP who are trying to, you know, they've lost. They're like the type of people who they're at the football game and they see that their team has already lost. And instead of going, okay, we've lost, and walking away, they're like smashing the windows and they're trying to burn the place down because they've lost. They can't accept it. Although it's even worse than that, because they actually tried to fix the game in order for them to win, and they handed over a bribe to the referee, and the referee was Boris Johnson. There is resentment because the UK plan didn't work. I agree, but that was the UK plan. These people should be angry with Boris Johnson. Isn't it curious that Boris Johnson hasn't returned a euro in the swear jar? Well said, Glasgow. Ding. I'll put a euro in the swear jar. I need to build up a swear jar, and then I'll donate it to charity. I promise. We should actually have. I see about putting up a swear jar. There's thanks for that, James. There is resentment, and it should be towards Boris Johnson. Boris Johnson lied to the DUP. He lied to the loyalist community. Their beef should be with Boris Johnson and the Tories, not with the EU, not with the Irish government. I know they hate the EU and they hate the Irish government, but that's not the person who screwed you over. The Irish government and the DUP and the EU had been saying on numerous occasions, Ian Og. I call him Ian Og. I wish I could speak to his, I would say to his face. These people, it was not the Irish government or the EU that screwed you over. It was Boris Johnson and the Tories. They came over to Northern Ireland and they said, we are the Conservative and Unionist Party. And then they took you and shoved you under a big red bus with £360 million for the NHS on the side of it. And even after the DUP were under the bus and the EU and the Irish government were reaching in to give them a hand to pull them out, they were, don't touch me. I want to be under this bus. You put me under this bus. And they're like, no, Boris Johnson put you under the bus. Can't you see he's even sitting in the driver's seat? No, you put us under this bus. That's the mentality of the the Loyalists and the DUP. Sorry, a bit of a rant here, but they really piss me off because these people don't want peace. They will say that they want peace when in reality they don't. They will blame others. They're like the Tories on steroids. They will blame everyone else for their own mistakes. But the DUP have never been the sharpest tools in the box, have they? No, they haven't. They're blind. Their hate for everything Irish blinds them from any sort of pragmatism whatsoever. Because censorship is great. The DUP and the unionist community are a joke. Look, I have no animosity towards the unionist community. I understand there are people, and I've met some of them. When I was visiting Northern Ireland, I met some people from the unionist community. They're ordinary. A lot of them are ordinary people who just say, look, I want to have a job. I want to put food on the table. I want to have a roof over my head. For me, maybe it's better to be part of the UK. This is, this was about 2 years ago. They said, look, for me, and I was curious, and I was really interested in hearing what they had to say. And they're ordinary people who just want to get on with their life. They were born in a Protestant community, but they understood by traveling around the world that the world is not Northern Ireland. Northern Ireland is not the world. And they understood that maybe in their mind they were in two minds, but part of it was I grew up with this culture. I don't want to lose it. I feel more British than I do Irish, and I fully respect that. The DUP and the Loyalists are something different. They have a burning in them. They have a rage in them. I think it's an impotent rage. The DUP, I think if they look inside, they understand that there's something coming. They can't stop it, but they'll try and do everything they can. Instead of actually sitting down and accepting reality, they prefer to live in a fantasy. So this is going to rumble on for a while, but I think it's going to be... I think there's a real risk that some people may be injured or even worse than that because of these idiots and the people who enable them. Max Hastings has written in the Irish Times, this is not written in the Irish Times, but it's reporting Max Hastings. Irish unity will take place within a generation, historian Max Hastings says. Ex-editor says states' wealth makes unification possible in a way it was not in the 1960s. So I just want to read a little part of this. It's related to what we saw before. Irish unification will take place within a generation. Writing a historical wrong, one of Britain's one of Britain's best-known historians and journalists has suggested Max Hastings, a former editor of the Daily Telegraph and Evening Standard, and an author of multiple books on military history, said such an outcome would serve the best interests of the Irish people, save a rump of alienated Protestants, historically out of their time. I think that's a valid point. The Unionists, and I'm talking about the DUP in general, the Unionists in Northern Ireland, the DUP in particular, tend to view Britain in a different way than Britain views itself. They have a romantic image of Britain. They have an image of, I think, Little England. But Little England is not Britain. And they live maybe, I think, 50 years behind modern Britain. And you can see it in some of the politics. The Unionists are more religious. They're against gay marriage and abortion. Things that are actually legal and promoted in in the rest of the UK. They are people from another time, and they risk being left behind. And their world will get smaller and smaller. And, they used to look towards the south as the papal state, they're run by the Pope. But, that reality has completely collapsed over the last number of decades. The idea that if you look at the Republic of Ireland, where the last Taoiseach was gay, openly gay. He even met was it Mike Pence? That was uncomfortable. And you had a complete separation, not complete separation, but a strong schism, separation from the church itself. The legalization of abortion and same-sex marriage. The Protestants in the north can't look to the south and say this is a papal state, this is a country run by Rome. It's not. Reality is completely different. Yes, they could have said something like that many decades ago, but Ireland has completely changed in the last 30 years, even in the last 20 years. And it's no longer possible to use the excuse that, if there's a United Ireland, we'll all be converted, at the barrel of a gun to Catholicism. Sorry, I've been ranting away here and I haven't been reading the chat. That's very bad of me. SJW says DUP voted against the Good Friday Agreement, then voted Brexit because Boris paid them, then have the audacity to complain about the Northern Ireland Protocol undermining the Good Friday Agreement. Hypocrisy. Yes, I was fuming when I saw, I think it was Ian Ogue. I'll call him Ian Ogue. Ian Paisley Jr. Ian Ogue. Ogue is Irish for young, or junior. Just to piss him off. He hates the Irish language, so I call him Ian Ogue. When Ian Ogue was in Parliament saying, this will or maybe it was Sammy Wilson, this will undermine the Good Friday Agreement. You people campaigned against the Good Friday Agreement, and now you're trying to hold it up as, it's a bit like, I don't know, Priti Patel holding up the European Convention on Human Rights or something and saying, this action you're going to take is going to undermine the European Convention on Human Rights or something like that. It's like the UK isn't happy with Northern Ireland, James says. Look, I'll try and be as kind as possible, but I think the British government have always looked at Northern Ireland as a problem. Now, the Conservative Party, during their campaigns, during their conferences, will always say, look, we care about Northern Ireland and the people of Northern Ireland and the Union. But look at how the Conservatives have treated the Union in the last year and a half. They lied to the people of Northern Ireland, not just to the Unionists, but they lied to the people of Northern Ireland in order to get Brexit over the line. They continually snipe at the people of Scotland. They treat the SNP in Parliament with contempt. Now, I know you don't have to, and I've said this before, you don't have to like the SNP, but the people who put the SNP there are Scots. So if you actually, the old saying, you attract more flies with honey than with vinegar. But the Tory approach seems to be, to hell with vinegar, let's use napalm, okay? They just treat Scotland, the SNP, with contempt. And I think it's very important to remember that the SNP are gaining in power. So you don't destroy the SNP by attacking the SNP. You have to, if I was in the Conservative Party, I'd be saying, okay, we need to understand what the Scottish people want. Campaign for independence. I know it would run completely against the ideology of the party, but if you actually campaign for independence with the SNP, people would be confused. They'd be like, what? You might actually win some people over. I think it's an absolute long shot, a complete insanity. But the current approach is not working. treating the people with disrespect is not going to win them over. But I think it's in the Tory mentality. Treat the Irish with contempt, treat the Scots with contempt, treat the Welsh with contempt. And I'm talking about the Tories, I'm not talking about the English here, I'm talking about the Tories. The Tories treat everyone who's not Tory with contempt. If you're working class, we treat you with contempt. If you're a Labour supporter, we treat you with contempt. If you're from the north, we treat you with contempt. If you're from the east of London, we treat you with contempt. It's not about... It's about, did you go to Eton? Then we will treat you with respect. Did you donate to the party? We'll treat you with respect. Do you sound like somebody who went to a private school? Then we'll treat you with respect. Otherwise, everyone else is treated with contempt. And certain other people are treated with more contempt than others. And they don't understand that. Boris Johnson... You know, when he was joining a club. Now, I don't know if this is a legend or what, but it's part of the, damn it, I forgot the name of the club, where you have to burn a £50 note in front of a homeless person. Now, some people say that's a legend, it's not true. But does it sound beyond the realm of possibility that Boris Johnson would be part of some club where they'd burn a £50 note in front of a homeless person? But in order to be part of that club, you have to do that. What sort of person does that? Wouldn't a courageous person say, to hell with that, I'm actually going to give the £50 note to the homeless person? You know, if Burlington Club. I mispronounced Bullingdon Club. I don't know if it's true or not, whether it's actually that you have to burn the £50 note. But it's pretty much irrelevant. You have to do something horrible. So what does that tell you about the people of that party? Anyway, let's move on. We're actually getting close to the end of the stream. I want to talk a little bit about... This was... I think Phil may have actually talked about this on his stream, on his channel, on one of his videos. But I think it's important to talk about it as well. Keir Starmer. Is Keir Starmer the new Jeremy Corbyn? No, I'm joking. So, Keir Starmer is facing pressure to end silence on Tory Brexit failures. Keir. So, Labour leader Keir Starmer is coming under growing pressure from senior party figures and activists to hold Boris Johnson to account over disastrous effects of his Brexit deal on many businesses. Now, the problem here, Keir, is that you voted for this. And I and many others were saying you shouldn't have voted for it, because as soon as you voted for it, you couldn't really complain about it. And I don't know if Keir Starmer is biding his time, if he's just waiting until the right moment, and he's saying, look, let's get into this disaster before criticizing it. But I think this is the wrong approach. I think Keir Starmer should be going to these communities that voted for Boris Johnson, that voted for Brexit, those that are suffering, the fishing industry, go to them and say, because if you're not going to them, you know who is going to them? Nigel Farage is going to them. And he's going to spin his lies once again, blaming, oh, it's not Brexit's fault, it's the European Union's fault. It's not Brexit's fault, it's Boris Johnson's fault. You need to get there before that, and you need to explain, this is Brexit's fault. This is the fault of Brexit. Now, whether you voted for it or not is now irrelevant. How do we fix it? Boris Johnson is not fixing it. I'm here to fix it. I'm here to listen to you, and we have to fix it together. I think people would like to have the thing fixed. Let's move on from who's to blame. Let's move on from, why you voted for it or not. Of course, some people will have voted for it because they wanted to stop immigrants. But now they realize that they're suffering because of it. The immigrants issue is out of the picture. They want something done. And this is an opportunity for Labour to jump in and say, look, we are here to fix the problem. give us your support, we'll fix it. They could say something like, we could, you know, Boris Johnson doesn't want to deal with the EU. He's afraid to deal with the EU. We want to deal with the EU. We want to fix this. We want to open up a new channel with them. We want to get back into some sort of agreement. We want to get into maybe the single market or the customs union. We'll be outside the EU. We won't be rejoining. If he doesn't want to say that, I don't know what he wants to do. But they need to sit down. The heads of Labour need to sit down together and they need to work out some sort of strategy. Anyway, let's get into this. So after more than 6 weeks of virtual radio silence on Brexit, the Labour leader has yet to make a substantial challenge to any sort to the Prime Minister on the issue. This is despite hauliers reporting massive fall in trade volumes to the EU and half of 470 UK exporters telling the British Chamber of Commerce in a survey that they're facing real problems. Now, why doesn't Keir Starmer reach out to these people, reach out to these business owners? He has an army of Labour supporters, Labour staff. Get them on the phone to these businesses. You know, has your business suffered from Brexit? What would you like us to do? He needs a stance. Sitting on a fence gets you nothing but splinters up your arse. Very well said. Yes. I really don't understand his approach. Unless my biggest defect, I think, when it comes to analyzing politicians, is that I think that they are playing a different game. I think they are playing 4D chess. And unfortunately, I thought that Jeremy Corbyn was doing the same thing. I said, look, I'm just a political junkie, but he's been in this game for 40 years. Surely, if I can see these problems, he can see them, and he's operating at a different frequency. And then it turned out that he wasn't. And I'm afraid that I'm also giving Keir Starmer too much benefit of the doubt, believing that maybe he's operating at a frequency higher than I am. I really don't understand it. When Johnson announced the limited free trade deal on the EU on the 24th of December, Starmer made a statement saying Labour would accept the deal to avoid any risk of a no-deal outcome. But he insisted it was limited and flawed and that Labour would stop at nothing to expose its shortcomings. Stop at nothing? You know, he could have been down at the port on the 1st of January, meeting with the people who were suffering. You know, lorry drivers who couldn't get across because of the paperwork, meeting with the staff. Why can't they complete the paperwork? It could have been a golden opportunity for him. We will hold you to account for it. Every second you are in power for the promises you have made and the promises you break. James, thank you so much for that super chat. The EU should demand money for the false blame. I think it's difficult to do that, though. I think the EU are basically taking a hands-off approach. They're saying, look, this is your problem. You sort it out. It's not really affecting us. The only way the Brexit is really affecting the EU at the moment is in Northern Ireland. There is a risk of damage being done to the Good Friday Agreement because of the loyalist paramilitaries. The EU and the UK need to sit down and sort that out. That's not a Brexit problem. That's a security problem. That's a bureaucratic problem. It's not really a Brexit problem. It's caused because of Brexit, but it's not going to be something easy to fix, I'm afraid, because it's Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland was never an easy thing to fix. No offense to the people of Northern Ireland, I'm just talking the political problems go back decades and centuries, and it's not something that can be fixed, over a cup of tea. Starmer made the statement. I promise you break. Since then, despite Johnson having insisted the deal would boost UK trade and that there would be no border in the Irish Sea, many UK exporters have been driven to take drastic action, either stopping exports to the EU altogether or setting up operations inside the single market, meaning the loss of jobs, investment, tax revenues in the UK. Like, what? Just read this out in Parliament. Like, I don't understand why Keir Starmer. I don't know if it's possible, if it's a restriction of Parliament or what, but surely he could show some videos. Show some videos of. Ask the fisherman, can I show your video in Parliament? Yes, you can. Can I show an interview of you in Parliament? Show those interviews and get. Okay, Boris, respond to that. Okay, Prime Minister, you can't call him Boris for some ridiculous reason. Okay, Prime Minister, how do you answer that person's problem? These people believed in you. You lied to them. Now tell them how you're going to fix it. And he can try and turn it as, oh, well, the right honourable gentleman is using these people as pawns or whatever. That's not going to fly. These are people who are suffering. Whether Keir Starmer is using them or not doesn't change the situation. These people want answers. And the more Boris tries to dodge, the more it'll make him look like an idiot. Gratok, thank you so much for that super chat. There's a total lack of leadership in Britain these days. I'm really disappointed with Keir Starmer because there are so many opportunities for him. He could be reaching out to so many businesses, so many workers, meeting with people, I think a defect that he has is that he appears distant. And by not meeting with people, he reinforces that maybe misplaced stereotype he has, or opinion people have of him. He needs to be down on the ground. He needs to meet with these business owners, meet with the staff, understand, ask them, like, what can we do to fix it? He has to be someone who's willing to fix problems. Boris Johnson makes problems. He could present himself as a fixer. I'm here to fix the problem. What is the problem? Let's try and resolve it together. Be proactive. I think that's what he can do. But he appears distant. He appears disconnected. And I'm afraid that's going to just make things worse. He can shout and he can do things in Parliament, but there has to be an in-game and an out-game. There has to be an in-fight and an out-fight. There has to be a battle within Parliament and outside Parliament. You have to fight it on two fronts. Fight Boris Johnson in Parliament, but also fight with the people outside Parliament. He seems like he can be a good guy. James, you're right. He can be a good. I think he is a good person. I think he has the right ideas when it comes to policies and things like that. Although, unfortunately, we're not hearing a lot about his policies. I'm less critical of him than maybe Graham or other people on the left would be of him. I'm trying to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I think he needs to step up. He needs to reach out to people. He needs to reach out to the people who are suffering because of Brexit. And it doesn't matter if they voted for Boris Johnson before. It doesn't matter if they are, racists or bigots or whatever. If their businesses are going down the toilet, I think they would be willing to bite the bullet and speak with Starmer if they think he can help them out. The idea that the Brexit issue is done and dusted is for the birds, Corbett told The Observer. Late last night, Richard Corbett, former Labour leader in the European Parliament and ex-member of the Shadow Cabinet, called on Starmer to start exposing the Prime Minister's incompetence and malevolence. Firstly, because Johnson's deal is full of gaps and that still needs to be negotiated, including services on fisheries. Yeah, so that needs to be, services in particular needs to be sorted out. It hasn't been sorted out. But I think a lot of these things go over people's heads. You need to be meeting with the people on the ground. Because where it has settled issues, it has done so badly, as shown by the crescendo of complaints from companies and others, including musicians and students. Third, because the government seems intent on seeking conflict with the EU. from threatening to tear up the agreement on Northern Ireland to departing from the level playing field commitments. Just as with COVID, Labour must highlight Johnson's incompetence and malevolence and point to how the damage can be rectified. I agree, but that's something that needs to take place within Parliament. There also has to be the game outside Parliament, and I don't see that happening at the moment. So it goes on to talk about polling and stuff like that. The Labour Party seem to be bouncing a little bit above the Conservative Party in 1 week and then down the next week and then back up again, which isn't exactly encouraging, because Boris Johnson should be completely a persona non grata at this moment. You know, over 120,000 people, or about 120,000 people dead from the pandemic, the Brexit disaster. Like, at what state, what else could Boris Johnson do? What more terrible things could he do to, and he still wouldn't be impacted in the polls? What does he need to do in order for his poll numbers to go down? Because at the moment he's doing reasonably well. You know, does it have to reach 200,000? Does do the ports have to be completely blocked? We all thought that because of Brexit, this would be the end of Boris Johnson. But in reality, the public, because they're seeing it as something distant, you know, the fishermen, well, it doesn't really affect me, or, you know, I'm not able to buy this stuff on Amazon, then I'll just buy somewhere else. Or because it's a sort of drip, 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 like a slow puncture, as some people described it, it's not having the same impact as we thought it would. And Boris Johnson is sort of getting away with it. Now, the next few months are going to be interesting because some grace periods will end. The UK will have to start to impose restrictions on the borders that they're not imposing at the moment. And that's going to create some disruption. When people can't get their toilet paper, then you know Boris Johnson's in trouble. That's the indicator. When people can't get their beer, their wine, or their toilet paper, or some particular object, then, you know, when the queues start, or there's a few people grumbling a bit more than usual, then Boris Johnson has to worry. But until that stage, I think he's going to be okay. The Express thinks Boso is great. Well, the Express is a pro-Tory, pro-Brexit newspaper, so Boris Johnson can never do anything bad. The only way they criticize Boris Johnson in the Express would be he needs to be tougher with the EU. He needs to bang his fist harder on the table. That's the only things they would say. He's doing a great job, but he needs to bang his fist a bit, a few more decibels, and that would get Brexit done better. It's quite sad. Well, we're almost at the end of the stream. I just want to finish with one more story, and then we'll have our one for the road. Good news, everyone. Well, not really good news. Donald Trump remains 2024 candidate of choice for most Republicans, polls show. 59% of Republican voters said they wanted Trump to play a prominent role in party, but tens of thousands left after Capitol riot. If the 2024 Republican presidential primary were held today, Donald Trump would be the clear favourite to win big. That would be the message from a Political Morning Consult poll. Okay, so this is, I wouldn't read too much into this, but I don't want to be wrong. But generally, after a president leaves office, their approval rating remains reasonably okay, and then it starts to drop. When they are out of the picture, their approval rating starts to increase. So if Donald Trump went into the wilderness for a bit, it would actually help him, because people have very short memories, and all you would need is a few bad economic figures under Joe Biden's presidency for people to go, well, maybe Donald Trump wasn't that bad after all. It's the same. We've seen it before, When George W. Bush left office, his approval rating was really low. Then it started to increase when he was out of office. And now people have a very favorable view of George W. Bush, the guy who started the Iraq War, who started the war in Afghanistan, who crashed the economy. People just, I don't know, some sort of nostalgia, I think. I really don't get it. So this was the message of a Politico Morning Consult poll released on Tuesday, 3 days after Donald Trump's acquittal in the second impeachment trial on the charge of inciting the insurrection. I'm getting tired. At the US Capitol on 6th of January. Isn't it interesting? So if Donald Trump has been acquitted of this, then Joe Biden should just say, okay, I'm going to organize an insurrection if I lose. Republicans should be fine with that. Republican voters, 59% said they wanted Trump to play a prominent role in the party, up a whopping 18 points from the last such poll taken in the aftermath of the Capitol riot. A slightly lower number, 54%, said they would back Trump in the primary. So I really hope that Trump forms a new party, but I don't see that happening. Tens of thousands of Republicans left the party after the Capitol insurrection, and majority Americans have told their pollsters that they would like to see Trump banished from politics. I don't see that really happening, though. Although he's going to be quite old. So what is he, 73? So he'd be 77. So he'd be about maybe the same age. Sorry, it says here. So though the 45th president will be 78 by the election day of 2024, he'll be able to run again if he chooses, having escaped being barred from office after a 57 to 43 Senate vote to convict, with 7 Republican defectors, but 10 votes short of the majority needed. Mike Pence's life was threatened by Trump supporters at the Capitol as the vice president presided over the ratification of the Electoral College results. It seems such a long time ago. He placed second in the Politico Morning Consult poll with 12%. Name recognition is a powerful force so far out from the contest concerned. Don Trump Jr. shared third place with 6%, and Nikki Haley, the former South Carolina governor and United Nations ambassador, has tried to distance herself from Trump since the Capitol riot. One of Trump's daughters wants to join the Republicans. Oh my God. Was it Ivanka? Thanks for that super chat, James. I think Trump in trouble is being sued. Clip for that meme. The penal dysfunctional party. Melania Trump incites the election. I knew I walked right into that one. What a bunch of spineless cowards. That would have impeached the piece of crap. The Republicans are so afraid of actually acting with a spine. The Democrats don't have much of a spine anyway, but they seem to have grown one recently, which is interesting. And definitely Joe Biden. I thought Joe Biden would be, from day one, yeah, let's all just get together and let's not rock the boat. Or he's been quite progressive in a sense. I haven't really been following the politics. Isn't it great that politics in the US is boring again? We have a boring president. That's great. You're not one who's threatening to nuke some faraway country at 3 o'clock in the morning. Farage and the gold elevator. Farage is like the girl from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, the one who wants, was it Veruca Salt, I think her name was. She's like the female version of Farage. Anyway, guys, we're at the end of the stream for tonight. I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's come on the stream tonight. Thank you so much. I hope it was entertaining. I want to say a massive thank you, of course, to everyone who sent a super chat. That was greatly appreciated. They're a great support for the channel. And of course, a huge thank you to the moderators who always keep the channel on, keep the stream on the straight and the narrow. Greatly appreciated for all your work, keeping the trolls at bay as well. So I think we are over almost 500 viewers tonight. That's amazing. That's great work. So remember, guys, if you want to support the channel further, you can become a patron, and you can and gives you instant access to Discord. And you can also, if you cannot afford, don't worry, you can just share the videos on social media. That's a great way of supporting the channel. Like, subscribe, write a comment. They're all great ways to support the channel too. So let's get into our one for the road before we finish for tonight. Hopefully this works. Normally works. Hopefully it work on the night. Janie. Oops.
Boys for sticking up for me. I mean, thank you, Mitch McConnell and all the boys for sticking up for me. I mean, the votes have been counted. I'm not going to jail. Well, I'm absolutely raging. I was hoping to go to Barbados with my yoga instructor. He's also a Pilates teacher and a life coach. But no, that's a Republican screwed my life up again. Donald's not gone to jail. Back to the Gold Castle. Thank you, Mitch.
Okay, back to the Gold Castle. So, guys, thanks once again for coming on. It's been a pleasure. I hope you all had a great stream, and I hope you all have a great week. And I see you all same bat time, same bat channel, Friday night at 9:30 Greenwich Mean Time. So, as Boris Johnson always says, stay alert. Take care of yourselves, guys. Stay alert, as Boris Johnson says, and I'll see you all on Friday. Good night and have a great week.